What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers acquired Maxi Kleba as part of the Luka Doncic deal, which a healthy Kleba makes a ton of sense for the Lakers, right? He's a guy that can play the 4, play the 5, stretch the floor, right? He's a guy that has chemistry with Luka. The idea of Maxi Kleber makes a ton of sense. Problem is, he's probably not playing this year. Now, he is expected to be reevaluated in 8 weeks. Takes you to basically April, and even then, the Lakers are probably going to take their time. Evaluated doesn't mean returning. Right? So he might not return until May, June. At that point, it's like, if you could turn him into something better, you do it. Or at least a viable piece in the rotation that you can count on this year. If push comes to shove, you have that guy you can fall into. So according to Brian Windhorst, the Los Angeles Lakers are looking to move Maxi Kleber between now and then Thursday's trade deadline. It's going to be a tough task, right? Because again, he's out for the season. He has $11 million this year. He has $11 million next year. Now, the Lakers cannot aggregate him in any type of trade. So they can't take like him and Rui and go get a $28 million guy. They have to move him in a separate deal. Now, it could be like a 3-team trade to where Kleba's going over here, say Rui's going over here, and whatever other piece is going over here, and then they get 2 guys. That's a possibility. But what kind of piece are you going to get? Right? Like, what team is signing up to give you a piece of quality for a guy that's not going to play this year? And yes, he'd be an $11 million expiring contract next year that they could maybe look to trade or, send him to a contending team that could just use some depth. Right? He is a good player when healthy. And look, we've all seen him torch the Lakers before. But again, pretty tall task. If you're asking to get a nice return for a Maxi Kleber, you're probably going to have to attach assets regardless. Now, maybe you could do it in the mix of a deal, right? To where maybe you're attaching a first to get maybe a younger guy. Like I've talked about Ayo. Can you do something where, like, would Chicago take him for a year and just to get the first and maybe get an Ayo or something, right? Because they're not really caring about the player, they're caring about the pick. It's a possibility, right? Something like that. I'm just using Ayo as an example. Could be, another young guy, right? Like, like somebody from the Hornets, right? Could you get like a Cody Martin or something, right? And give up, a pick swap or something, right? Something along those lines. But me personally, and I've talked about this very heavily recently, if you're going to have to attach assets regardless, can you attach those assets just to get off of Kleba, right? So just clear him off your books. Because the Lakers, if they can clear roughly $9 to $10 million, they could get under the first apron. And getting under the first apron is one of the only paths I personally see to solving all of the Lakers' issues. Because the Lakers need several things, right? They could use some more wing depth, some 3-and-D guys, some guard depth, right? They could use, obviously, centers, ideally probably 2 centers, right? They need probably 3 to 4 guys realistically if they really want to build that roster that's one of the best in the league and be able to contend with the best of them. It's just really hard to do when you're limited on assets. Lakers have a first, a second, and then I think 3 pick swaps, right? It's not a lot. Plus, on top of that, like Rui, Gabe, and then a bunch of like vet minimum guys, right, are probably the only guys you're really trading unless the Lakers look to trade Reeves, which I don't think that they're going to do. I think he'll probably eventually move into like that Manu role, the 6-man role. But to me, I think if you can get under the first apron, you can solve almost all of your issues. How, Tyler? Well, let me explain to you. So, if the Lakers could send Kleba to, say, like a Detroit can actually absorb like his entire contract if they wanted to, right? Can you do something where you're sending Kleba to Detroit, attaching like a pick swap? I would even do a pick swap in like a second, right? Like, can you do a pick swap in a second round? Whatever you have to do to get off of him. Because here's what happens. Let's say, argument's sake, let's say that Detroit's like, sure, we just want the assets, right? We're not winning a championship this year. Kleba would be nice bench depth next year, or we can look to trade him in the offseason or something, right? Like something like that. Let's say Detroit's like, yeah, just give us the assets, right? Well, now what you do is you still have 2 pick swaps and you have a first, but you got under the first apron, which means now you can go and trade for that center. Whoever that center is, pick your favorite center in your head, right? Boom. Let's say the Lakers go get that guy. Okay, well, now the Lakers got their center. They're under the cap. Can you then go trade for some type of wing depth, right? Depending on the center you get, right? Like, let's say it's a Day'Ron Sharpe. Let's say Lakers just go get Day'Ron, bring him in. He's cheap. And then go trade for, like, say a Bruce Brown. right? I know people are like, why do you always talk about Bruce Brown? Because it's about what's realistic. It's about what's available and what the Lakers can realistically get. Okay, well, let's say you ended up getting Day'Ron Sharpe, you ended up getting Bruce Brown, and then now you're under the first apron. Well, now you don't think team or players on some of these opposing teams, you don't think they'd be looking at the Lakers and going, I can request a buyout and then go to the Lakers. Player like Lonzo, for example, right? Like, let's say he's like, hey, buy me out. Well, if he gets bought out right now, the Lakers can't sign him. The Lakers cannot sign anybody making more than $12.8 million. So any guy you see, right? I see people all the time that are like, oh, we should get this guy off of a buyout, or that guy off a buyout, or this guy off a buyout. Lakers can't get any of them because they're making more than $12.8 million, right? But if the Lakers get under the first apron, well, now you can. Now you have none of those restrictions. Now you have none of those issues and concerns, right? The Clippers just did that, right? So if the Lakers can kind of follow suit and find somebody to take on Kleba's contract, or at least a majority of it, right? Like, you could bring in, I think, like a vet minimum guy and you'd get under the cap. So if they could do something like that, or, say, like, let's say you bring in a vet minimum guy, even if the Lakers are like $1 million or $2 million away, then they can, like, in a Rui deal, you're probably, because you have to send out more salary anyway, so you're probably sending out that extra $1 million or $2 million anyway to get under the cap. So regardless, Lakers have a path to get under the cap. Obviously, you're not giving up a first or anything like that to get that done. But if you can find somebody, even if it's like 2 pick swaps, right? Let's say you still have a first, a second, and a pick swap, right? I think that would be enough to then go get 1 or 2 pieces that you need. And then now you can look to the buyout market and bring in a couple guys. Clear off some roster spots. Because Kleba, right there, boom, you cleared 1 roster spot. If you do like Rui, Gabe, and, Christian Wood, and like a Cam Reddish for 2 guys, we cleared off 2 more roster spots. So now you have 3 open roster spots. Again, if Alonzo, let's say you trade for Alonzo and Bruce Brown is like, hey, I want to buy out, you could end up getting both of them. Now the Lakers can get kind of 2, 3, 4 higher end guys because you're trading for 2 and then they can sign 2 and now we're cooking, right? That's the only path I really see. So if I'm the Lakers, obviously if you can turn him into quality piece, whatever that piece is, then do it. But again, what team is willing to do that? Right? What team is willing to send out a good player to take on Kleba? A team might be more willing to take on Kleba by not having to send anything out and just getting the assets. Right? There's a team, Detroit, they have several guys that they could just waive, no big deal, take on Kleba. For them, it would just be getting the assets, getting the pieces. Or, one of these teams might go, okay, like we could get, like this guy's at the end of the bench, never going to play for us. We were thinking about waiving him and cutting him anyway. Just send him out, bring in Kleba, and let's get a pick swap or a pick swap in a second or something like that. And then now we freed up, we got some assets for free, right? Like we didn't have to give up anything when we were going to get rid of this guy anyway. And then Lakers can bring that guy in and just figure it out, attach him to a trade or whatever, right? You figure it out is the point, right? So to me, that's the path that I'd be looking to get off of Kleba on. Because outside of that, you're probably looking at very minimal moves for the Lakers, right? You're looking at, like, let's say best case scenario, right? Say best case scenario, you do land Miles Turner. That's probably where it stops, right? Maybe you get some like random pieces here and there, but you're probably looking at something like Miles Turner, best case scenario again. Say Miles Turner, and then maybe bringing in like a Chris Dort or, a Torrey Craig. Maybe you can bring in both depending on if you can get off a couple guys, right? Like if you can clear 2 roster spots. Boom, now you can bring those guys in. Sure, that's great, right? Torrey Craig, a veteran, 6'7", 3-and-D wing. You got, Chris Dort, 6'5", 6'6", versatile 2-3 guard. And then you got the guy in Miles Turner. Like, yeah, I think Lakers are much better, but it's not the real ceiling movers outside of Miles Turner. Now, if you could get, like I said, go and trade, let's say you trade for Miles Turner, and then you go trade for, let's say a Josh Green, because he has familiarity next to Luka, right? And you get those 2 guys. Well, then again, now if you got under the first apron, you could still go, hey, Bruce Brown's like, hey, I want to sign with them in the offseason anyway, so buy me out, right? I'm just going to go to the Lakers and then, because you're either going to lose me for nothing, so you might as well, just buy me out and then save some money, right? And then he could get the buyout, go to the Lakers and sign a new deal. They save a little money off the top because, that's usually how it goes, right? The player takes, $2-3 million off the books, whatever, do something like that, and then gets it back in the Lakers signing. And now you just went and got, Miles Turner, Josh Green, Bruce Brown, and maybe you even have another roster spot, depending on how things shape up, and can still bring in a Dort or a Torrey Craig, or if another buyout guy, if you're still under the first apron, can come and bring that guy in, right? Like, it opens up so many more possibilities if they can get under the first apron. So if you can trade Kleba, great. But I would look to just unload him rather than try. If you can get somebody back, right? Obviously, it's safer to get that piece back than it is to maybe get something, right? But I just think teams would be more interested in like, hey, we don't have to send anybody out. Let's just take him on, right? He's an $11 million expiring contract next year. We might be able to turn him even into another second to one of these veteran teams, one of these teams that are looking for depth. Right, he's a good player when healthy. Let's just take him on. We get a second or, a pick swap in the deal, or maybe both, whatever, right? Like, I would look to do that if I was the Lakers. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you agree with the idea? Do you hate the idea? You kind of mix in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. If you enjoy these types of videos, I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.